Now let's hear from some of these European real-life examples. We'll go on a regular tour de force to 5 European news media. So good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Philip Faigle from German Zeit Online, Engen from NRK, Norway's public broadcaster, Martin Jönsson from Swedish Dagens Nyheter, Finnish journalist Matleena Ylikoski, and managing editor and co-founder of the Danish media Zetland, Korsgaard. Welcome to you all.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Philip Faigle, we'll start with you. You have developed this very special software. Tell us, what does it do?
Our project started in 2016, 2017, and so we were very impressed by the developments like the election of Donald Trump, Brexit, the German immigration discussions. And our feeling was that open political discussion became more and more difficult, and that people would rather stay in their bubbles, talking only to people who think like they do. So we felt it was time for a change, and we want to be part of that change. So we asked ourselves, how can we get people to talk again? And we came up with an idea, and the idea was like, let's build a Tinder for politics, a dating platform for political discussions. And we started the project in 2017 and called it Deutschland Spricht, Germany Talks. And the process is very simple. So we ask our readers 5 yes or no questions about political topics like immigration, nuclear power, or same-sex marriage. For example, did Germany take too many refugees? And then we match people together with the furthest possible opinions who live as nearby as possible and ask them to have a one-on-one conversation in real life. Of course, that was in pre-corona times. Nowadays, the talks are all digital. So when we started that, we only expected some 100-ish people to register. But after one day in 2017, 1,000 people had registered for that project. And in the end, 12,000 Germans had signed up for that. So given that at that point, we had nothing except an idea, we really had a problem. So we built everything step by step. We built an algorithm with our tech team that was able to automatically match people with people with opposite opinions, and then invite them to meet up. And of course, I mean, like one question that we hear very often, yes, we had many concerns. So one concern was, what if nobody actually shows up? Maybe there's an ex-murderer in the database or whatever. But then in 2017, something very beautiful happened, because thousands of Germans met in pairs and talked about politics peacefully. And that was really exciting for us to see. And afterwards, we were also really excited and wanted to expand the diversity of people and include other countries to have a cross-border exchange. So in 2018, we developed a real platform and a software. It is called My Country Talks. And since then, we are sharing our software with media companies across the globe. So a My Country Talks event already took place in more than 12 countries, in Italy, the Netherlands, Finland, Norway, Belgium, Switzerland, Sweden, and so on. And at the same time, in 2019, we hacked the algorithm a bit and allowed the software to match people not only in a national context, but cross-border. And we called this project Europe Talks, and we set it up together with 15 international media partners. And this time, people argued about European topics. And just last Sunday, thousands of Europeans had a video call with a stranger about politics, and at the second round of Europe Talks. And our algorithm matched pairs with totally different views on climate change, migration, and of course, how to deal with the pandemic and the coronavirus.
You bring people together, you build bridges, and you make people understand each other. It sounds also like a really good business model. Now you're giving it all up for free. Why?
Well, we hear this question also very often. So what's in for a media company to do that? First of all, I have to say we're sharing the software for free with everyone who wants to use it. So who's watching us now, contact us. You can do it in your country if you like, and we will help you. So what's in for a media company? So the honest answer is there need not necessarily be anything in it. So in our case, we just wanted to provide as a newsroom resources to society, because we believe that we as a media house are a perfect host for an open debate. And we think that is crucial. An open debate is crucial for a society to thrive. But I think in the long run, however, there is something in it for the medium as well. So we as journalists depend on an audience that is open for new arguments, new perspectives. We depend on an audience that is curious to learn about the world from a multitude of angles. And every step that leads in that direction can help to create a community that is open in this way.
Philip Faigle, thank you so much for sharing not just your ideas here, but also your software everywhere in the world. Let's go to Norway. Engen, good morning.
Good morning to you.
You produce a debate program for TV and you have a constructive take on that. Please tell me, what is it you do?
Well, what is it we do? We have a debate show with politicians and also people engaged in the theme that we discuss, and we put them together with some certain rules for the debate, which are very different from a traditional debate. We don't have a host, and it's not allowed to interrupt. And the most important thing in the debate is actually to listen to your opponent or the other participants and to be curious and ask questions to find out just how you could be so completely different in your point of views.
And you found out how to do this by actually listening to what people in the panel said after the camera was shut down, because that was where they were telling the good stuff. What is it people tell off screen?
Well, it's true. It all started out with two colleagues of mine that were the host and the editor of the biggest debate show in Norway on television. And what they found out was that the debate didn't change very much during when they were on live. But when the cameras were turned off and the lights were turned off, they spoke more naturally, like we would do when we meet each other. They let their shoulders down, they were more curious. And that was the debate that they really wanted to make. So that's what we did, really. And we thought of a low-key studio, and we spent a lot of time researching to make that debate. And the thing is, it's for politicians, it's almost a bit hard to be natural, if you know what I mean. It's the traditional debate is very constructed in a way. It's like you rehearse so much that you sometimes don't have the ability to listen what the host really asks you, and you have decided on beforehand what you're really going to say. So what we tried was to avoid all those pitfalls by focusing, practicing on just listening. And without the host, you also get sort of a more interaction between them. We did try with the host, but then you had them all turning to the host for sort of an acknowledge. But without the host, they take the responsibility themselves and sort of run the debate towards the listening and asking questions and doing the discussion, which is really nice.
What is the reaction? I mean, both the people that's participating and also the audience.
Well, the reactions were very positive from both sides. We were very happily surprised. We got a lot of international reactions, which are not very normal for a small country in Norway making a news program. So the international focus from big medias around the world, what are you doing in little Norway, making a debate by trying to make people listen? And also from the politicians, where the reactions sort of, I like to do it in this manner. I think it's difficult to always be in a studio to try to win the whole 5 votes back home with the way I'm doing it. So many of them thought this was, at least they did it in practice, and also intellectually they understand that it is actually a very good way to do it, to listen. It's like when you and I meet, or we meet at a dinner party, and we know we're going to meet a lot of people that have the total opposite opinion of us. But we are really happy to meet them, even though, and just sit and discuss across the table. It's not like we're trying to win a war, or trying to interrupt, or trying to just scream out what I mean. We are really curious.
So maybe the only ones that really doesn't like the idea is the host, because they're unemployed.
Well, we do interrupt if the debate just goes in around and say, okay, I think we're finished here. So we do have some control. But no, the host that didn't spend time as the host on this show was very happy.
Thank you so much, Gro. We will move on to Matleena Ylikoski in Finland.
Hi.
Hi. That is not Matleena. There we go. Matleena, you have a concept called conciliatory journalism. Tell us, what's that about?
Well, it's a kind of a toolbox for journalists to provide high standard journalism that values diversity and listening and social responsibility. And our aim in conciliatory journalism is to first help people understand social conflicts better, and secondly, find ways to deal with the conflicts. So our idea is not to wipe off the conflict, but to use journalism to support people's ability to live with the conflict, and those people who are so different from themselves. So the point of our conciliatory journalism is not to end the conflict with proposals for solutions, but to support fair public handling of the conflict. So that's the main idea.
And it also affects the way you work as a journalist?
Oh, yes. It's when I do this conciliatory journalism, I think very carefully at every point of the process how my different choices affect whether the article strengthens the conflict in question or brings more nuances and understanding in it. And for example, what kind of viewpoint I choose on the subject. So I'm not choosing a viewpoint that is for and against, but I'm introducing a dilemma that invites you to reflect and consider the issue. What is it all about? And then who do I interview? So I don't choose the extreme voices, but someone who represents a silent majority, like in between these extremes. And I will choose like as many interviewees as possible and try to make sure that they are able to discuss the subject constructively. So I actually bring them together. I interview them together. And yeah, and when I yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So when I interview them, I spend a lot of, actually before interviewing them, I spend a lot of time on background discussions to understand myself as deeply as possible what the subject is about and where the actual problem lies. And at the same time, I build trust between me and the interviewee, and then between the interviewees also, to so that they can trust that they can take part in this project. It's safe. And in the interviewing, sorry?
You also told me that you choose your words very carefully when you interview. All this, Matleena, it sounds quite time-consuming. How do you fit this dialogue into daily deadlines?
Well, if you want to make conciliatory journalism, you need more time for it. Absolutely. So it's not like everyday work. You do it on the conflict-prone issues and not everything. So there are the daily news and then the longer process of conciliatory journalism.
Matleena, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And now let's go to Sweden. Martin Jönsson. Good morning.
Hello.
Hello. So many newspapers struggle to keep their readers, but let's just take a look on a slide you sent us. Can we get it on the screen? Yeah. This is not the slide I want to see. Yeah, exactly that one. Explain us, what is happening here?
Well, I guess what you see is the curve of the diagram of our digital-only subscribers, because I don't see the graph, but so it's we started in 2015 when we decided in our strategy that we would not in the future be able to run sustainable business on advertising. So we had to focus much more on reader revenue, on digital reader revenue. So we started to make that our main priority. So we went from a situation where we had 2,000 digital subscribers, and today we have grown into 215,000 actually digital-only subscribers. So it's now a majority, and we have grown our total number of subscribers in this period, making this year, 2020, in spite of the pandemic, our most successful year financially for 20 years. So it's a total change of strategy, but it's also a change of audience. We have reached new audiences, more widespread within the country, younger, more female, by focusing very much on a different kind of journalism that works better for digital and works better for that audience, which much more focus on moving from news to knowledge, to focus on our original journalism, which is the one that people will be willing to pay for. Actually, the kind of journalism that requires special competence, takes a lot of time, requires presence in different countries and regions, much more expensive, but also much more valuable journalism for the readers. And to focus less on news and try to go deeper into the explanatory and the fact-based journalism, which has worked extremely well, both in storytelling and in in-depth reporting.
Can you give an example of what a story that worked very well?
Well, we started, for instance, in the Swedish general election and also for the European election, a series called Facts in the Matter, where we looked into the most important topics for the voters, and started to ask the question that the voters and the readers were asking, and trying to find the answers in the official statistics, in the latest science and research. And just by asking the questions like, do the police solve less crime? Are public schools worse or better than private schools? And then try to just find the facts. So often there were no news in that reporting, and the reporting in itself was almost like a scientific research report. We used help with perhaps 15 to 20 academics in the process, and we had two economists that were looking into the way that we were reporting, making sure that we were handling the statistics right and so on. So it was very dry, very fact-based, and the readers loved it because it was actually answering what they needed to know. There was no news angle on it. There was no take on it. It was just by going deep into the facts. And those kind of stories in very different topics, from foreign reporting on how the US election works, into more regular life-centric stories about exercise or sleep or raising your children or whatever, to base it on the knowledge and the facts and the explanatory way of telling it, is working very well among our readers.
Do they like to report on stuff like that? Do they like the change you have made?
Yes, partly because they see that it's working very well. We are growing in the number of subscribers, and people are spending much more time on the stories, and they're getting a lot of good feedback from the readers. Because I think that we sometimes, as journalists, overestimate the interest in news, in breaking news. We think that people want updates all the time. Actually, they don't. They want to understand, they want to feel, they want to make sure that they realize the relevance of the stories. So by focusing more on the evergreen content, giving it more space on the website and in the app, and making it easier for people to find those longer, perhaps more complex stories in the more the gray zone, has, I think, built a stronger trust from the audience, and they spend so much longer time and being more loyal users now than they used to do. And we stand out from our competitors by having the kind of content that no one else has.
Martin Jönsson, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And that was more or less a cue to you, Lea Korsgaard. Good morning. Because that's more or less the same you have success with you're somewhat a pioneer in the slow news business here in Denmark. What is it that works for you?
Well, three things. Zetland is a bit digital-born news magazine. So we publish only very few stories a day, but they are well reported and well told. So our promise to our readers and members is to cut through the stream of noise and news buzz that's out there, and only give people what you actually need in order to understand what's going on today and in the time we live in. And we have a sort of a finishable feature. You can actually finish with Zetland's content in a day, because we only publish 2-3 stories and a news podcast, which people like. You know, they pay for us in order not to get too much information, but just the right information. So that works for us. And then we, as I like to say, we are a community-built media. So we use our community of readers and members to research, to get insights, to we invite them to share their knowledge and their ideas and their perspectives so that we can make better journalism. And then finally, I think what works for us is that we are we think of journalism as a force of good, but we also think as technology as a potential force of good if we use technology well. So we are a media company, but we also a tech company that uses tech in order to sustain the a experience of Zetland as a place where you can focus, where you use your attention well and not spend it on ads and stuff like that. And we are only funded by our members, so we have no ads, and we just turned an important corner, having now 20,000 paying members in Denmark,
which is really good. And a huge part of those members, they're young readers, a group that hardly anyone can get a hold on. What is it that's so popular with the young ones?
First, just the numbers. 70% of our paying members are below the age of 45, and 30% are below the age of 30. So we have a very young demographic. And I think what works for them is perhaps two things. First of all, we don't take knowledge for granted. Like Martin said before, so much news, so many news stories today are written to people that we think constantly update themselves and are well into a story. So we don't have to give them background before we tell the story. For us, it's different. Maybe because we know that we have young readers. For instance, if you tell a story about Olof Palme's murderer, the murder case, you can't take for granted that young people actually know who Olof Palme is. You have to tell them before you tell the story, and then you also have to tell them why is it important. So we don't tell our stories by help of the traditional news triangle. We give them background and tell the story from the very beginning, actually. So that's one thing. And also I think they really like our mission. Our readers want to know important stuff about the world, but they don't want to consume tons of news that makes them news fatigue and makes them depressed about the world, because they don't know if it's actually important what they're spending their attention and time on. So they like our mission. And then finally, I think the tech component is also key here. It's a group of people that are used to the best of technology in the world. They're used to Spotify, they're used to Netflix. We have to compete with that digital experience in order to take their money from them.
And I can just add, it works very well. For example, if you read an article or you listen, you can stop at a sentence, you know, like you're drinking coffee, you're reading some of the article, and then you need to go on your bike, and then you can continue listening to the same article, the exact spot where I stopped. So it's very practical.
Yeah, so that's important as well. Just everything that we publish is published in written word, but also in an audio format. And the transition between audio and text is seamless. So as you said, you can listen to half a story while on your bike, and then if you want to read the rest, you can just click on a button, and our app will find itself where you stopped. So we are a text news magazine that you read through your ears mostly. 80% of our usage is through the ears, but we're still text-based, which is interesting also, I think.
Lea Korsgaard, thank you so much for participating.
Sure.
And thank you all for this grand tour de force around Europe. Philip Faigle from German Zeit Online, Engen from NRK in Norway, Martin Jönsson from Swedish Dagens Nyheter, and Matleena Ylikoski from Finland, and last but not least, Lea Korsgaard from Zetland here in Denmark. Thank you so much, all of you.